Hello students, so today we will start the second chapter, Oceans and Continents, of the class 6 new NCERT textbook on social science. Okay, so the chapter starts with the famous quote by Jules Verne that you can read over here. The ocean is everything. It covers 7/10 of the terrestrial globe. Its breadth is pure and healthy. It is an immense desert, watery desert in a way, where man is never lonely, for he feels life stirring all around us. This means he is talking about marine life. Okay. Now, the ocean is a vast reservoir of nature. The globe began with the ocean, so to speak, and who knows if it all not end with it. So this means, have you thought about it? Why Jules Verne has written such an important quotation? Why did he say? You may not know, or perhaps you are aware that he is also known as, Jules Verne is also known as the founder of modern science fiction because of his two very great novels. One is Journey to the Center of Earth and another is Around the World in 80 Days. Okay, so you see, Verne has wrote about space, air, even underwater travel before people invented navigable aircraft. So that's why I was saying that he is a founder of modern science fiction. And today you have heard a great quotation from this man, and this chapter you will find it covers many of the various ideas that Jules Verne has mentioned over here. So what are the very big questions that will be answered in this chapter? The two very big important questions that will be answered in this chapter are: what are oceans and continents? Number one. Then what are their names and their distribution? Okay. Next, in what ways do ocean and continents impact life on Earth, including human life? So basically we will learn about these very big questions. Along with that, I will also provide you some very important extra information as well. Now, before we start, just look at this figure. This is the Earth seen from space. Now, if you look into my playlist, I have already made a video using the Google Earth program on how the Earth looks like if you rotate this Earth around and see the different continents and all that. Now, look at this figure over here. The first thing you see is this white color. What is this? This is basically cloud. Next, what do you see? This blue color. This is the water of Earth. Next, you see this sandy color here. Even this is our country, by the way, India. You can see India over here. And this sandy color over here, this is Australia over here. And so this is basically land mass. Okay, now, so let's start. So this is what is mentioned over here, that this blue color is basically water, and which covers almost 3/4 of the surface of the Earth. Okay, and of course the largest water bodies we see on the globe are called oceans. Just wait for a minute, I will give you a more sophisticated definitions as well. Now, also along this blue ocean or seas, you also see a different color, the sandy color over here, right? This color over here, and they belong to basically land mass. And you see a piece of land, large piece of land is land mass, and a large continuous expanse of land is called a continent. So here we have started from the very beginning. So we have seen the earth, how it looks like, and from there we have seen oceans. Next we have seen continents. Okay, now both oceans and continents, you see, play a very vital role in shaping the climate of earth. They affect all aspects of life, including all plants and animals, and therefore as a result human life too. Now the details you will learn about in higher classes. For the time being, just deal with the very small details right now. Okay, now here is something very interesting, a connection with the Indian Navy. You see, the emblem of the Indian Navy, this is the emblem, contains the motto Sam no Varuna, which is pronounced Sham no Varuna, and this means, you see, Sham no Varuna, be auspicious to us, O Varuna. And this is an invocation to Varuna, a Vedic deity associated with the oceans, the sky and water in general. Next, let us talk about the distribution of water and land on the earth. Now, as it happens, you see, the oceans, this is the globe seen from the two different parts. This is the North Pole, by the way. Okay, this is the North Pole, and this one here is the South Pole. Yes, right. Now if you examine these two in the globe, this is the latitude and the longitude. So these are the latitude lines, these are the longitude lines. You remember we discussed in the previous lectures. Now the blue area here basically contains of oceans, and along with smaller extensions that have various names, say sea, bay and gulf. Now before we proceed, let us have a look at these definitions, some of which are mentioned in the glossary. Okay, so first the definition of sea. Well, sea is a large body of salty water that is smaller than the ocean and partly or completely surrounded by land. Okay, as you can see, this is sea over here, which is partly or completely surrounded by land. Next is your bay. Bay is a broad inlet of the sea. See here what you can see. Here you can see the broad inlet of the, yes, just a second. Yeah, so see here, this is the sea, right? Now sea has somewhat encroached inside the land over here, and this broad inlet of the sea, here also you see there is a encroachment of the sea towards the land, and this is known as bay over here as well as here. Okay, next we also know about the Bay of Bengal, right? This is yet another example of bay. You see, the sea has encroached inside land. See here, the sea has encroached inside the piece of land over here. So this is the Bay of Bengal. You can also say that a bay is a body of water which is particularly surrounded by land with a wide mouth which opens into an ocean, of course, like this. Next, Gulf. What is Gulf? Gulf is basically a part of the sea which is nearly surrounded by the land. See here, so this is the sea is entering. Okay, so first you see the Gulf of Oman. Here you also see the Persian Gulf. See, this is continuous. The sea is already continuous, but the sea is entirely covered by land, nearly surrounded, entirely. You see here also there is entirely covered by land everywhere. So that this is known as Gulf. Next, we have yet another example of Gulf. You see here, the sea is almost surrounded by land with a narrow mouth opening. See over here, this is the Gulf of Thailand. See, the sea is entering from the here, and see the land, how much is it? It's a lot of land, and sea inlet is very small mouth. So this is also known as Gulf of Thailand. So this is known as Gulf of Thailand. Get another example. Next, let us compare the Gulf and bay. Okay, you see, bay is a broad and recessed coastal inlet where the land curves inward. There is coastline on three sides of the bay, whereas a gulf is more defined and deeper inlet. See here, the Gulf of Mexico. Say for example, here the sea has entered so much, and so the land, you see, how much is it? It's a lot, very much deeper inlet of the sea. Okay, with the entrance more enclosed by the bay. This is important. So in the case of Gulf, the entrance is much more enclosed than a bay. So students, here you have learned the difference between bay and Gulf. Now there is yet another important concept which is known as strait. And straits are basically narrow waterways that connect two larger bodies of water. Say this is land, this is also land. Okay, this is both land and land here, and from here sea is entering. So this is known as strait. Say for example, here you see, this is the Park Strait. Here you have one piece of land, here you have another piece of land, and sea is entering from this small, okay, connection. So basically connection between two water bodies, one over here, another over here. This connection, this is known as strait. Yet another example of strait over here, you see, the Malacca Strait. Yes, Malacca Strait over here. See, there is connection, okay, between sea on both sides. This is the Malacca Strait. Okay, so now students, basically what we have done is we have seen this photograph previously, Earth from outside space, and what you can say in a very simple way is this is the Earth, okay, and outside the Earth there is this red surface which is basically water, and this is black which is basically land mass. Okay, and these are the continents basically, and these are your oceans. See, this is how the oceans and lands. I am just showing you a very basic way of understanding above the Earth. Okay, it's a broad exaggeration, but more or less a very simple model. Now connected to the concept of ocean is the concept of hydrosphere, and this is basically one of the most indispensable natural resources on Earth. You see, is water, and Earth is also called the blue planet. Why? Because it holds water in abundance and thus stands unique among all planets, and the blue color is basically due to the water. Okay, you will learn about it in higher class in physics. Okay, now what is hydrosphere? Hydrosphere basically consists of water in various forms found on Earth. You see, over 97% of the water on the Earth's surface is confined to oceans, and less than 3% of the water is held on lands such as glacier, ice cap, groundwater, river, lakes, and also the water vapor in air, even the water inside the organisms. We will learn about it very soon. Okay, next, ocean, a more comprehensive definition. Okay, you see, the ocean is a continuous body of salt water. Remember, oceans don't contain fresh water. And what is fresh water? Again we will talk about it, which is not salty. Now, ocean is a continuous body of salt water that forms the major part of the hydrosphere. Now, geoscientists believe how oceans came into being. Let's talk about it. Geoscientists believe that the oceans were formed on Earth nearly 3 billion years ago. Now, it is difficult to believe that in the beginning there was no water on our planet. Now, what happened is that in due course of time, when the Earth started to cool down, steam escaped from the interior and entered the atmosphere to form clouds. At first, the clouds brought incessant rain, and next, the rainwater filled the depressions for tens of thousands of years, and eventually a super ocean was formed. Okay. Now, interestingly, you see, the continents and oceans are, however, not equally distributed in both the northern and the southern hemispheres. You remember this concept? Remember the equator? So the equator divides into northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Now you see, the northern hemisphere holds 61% of land, more land, whereas the southern hemisphere holds 81% of water. So this means northern hemisphere holds more land and southern hemisphere holds more water. Remember this number, 61% and 81%. Now, it is because of this pattern of land and water distribution, the northern hemisphere is also called the land hemisphere, and the southern hemisphere is also called the water hemisphere. So, this is important, students. This might come in your MCQ during your exams. Okay. So, with this, let us now start the question answer of your textbook. These are the very first set of question answers. So, the first question, what are the circular lines in each map called? And do you know what the lines radiating out from the poles are called? Well, we have already talked about it. The circular lines are basically parallels of latitude, which are horizontal lines that circle the earth parallel to the equator. And what about the lines radiating from the two poles? They are basically the meridians of longitude. That is, vertical lines that run from the north pole to the south pole. You see over here, we have very nicely covered this in our last. Okay, let us continue. Now, the next question is, which hemisphere holds more water, and what do you think could be the approximate proportion of water to land in the north hemisphere and also in the south hemisphere? Now, for this, I think it is important to understand that water makes up approximately 71% of the entire Earth's surface, and while the other 29% basically consists of continents and islands. This you will learn very soon now. And of this, you see 71%, 60.7% area is water in the northern hemisphere, and in the southern hemisphere you see 80.9% is water. So if you consider the north hemisphere, 60.7% area is water. So how much is land? So it is 39.3% land. And in the southern hemisphere, since 80.9% area is water, so 19.1% is land. You see the numbers. Now another very interesting thing, so from here you can estimate the ratio. You can do this yourself. Okay, now another very important thing of the fact that there is much more water in the southern hemisphere is that since it has got more water than land, and water takes more time to warm as well as to cool down, and so this means that the southern hemisphere's climate is much milder than the northern hemisphere. Okay, now next question, are all the oceans connected with one another, or there are separations between them? Now you see the fact oceans are actually all connected with each other. And the fact that the oceans are interconnected, you see, is also proven by the thermohaline circulation, which is also known as global ocean conveyor or the great ocean conveyor belt. This is important for GK. This is an extra information, and this is the phenomena for which the seawater circulates around all the global ocean, and which is independent of the man-made boundaries, and water at depth is replaced by water from the surface. So this is very important, students. Next, what do you think? Is the earth's water static? No, actually it is always in motion, and this continuous movement of water on and above as well as below the earth's surface is called hydrological cycle. In lower classes you have learned this as water cycle. Okay, now you see the three very important processes involved in the water cycle are evaporation, condensation and precipitation. And so water changes its form continuously among ice, water and water vapor. See this picture over here. You see? What do you see in this picture? Tell me, students. You see from the ocean side, what you observe here is the water getting first evaporated. You see the water is getting evaporated, and then there is condensation and transportation, and after that clouds form, and then there is precipitation. Okay, so this is one part. Interestingly, we can also have, you see, evaporation this side. See, evaporation, again the same process, transportation and condensation, but this time the water falls from the river or from the surface flow, right? And you see sometimes there is percolation and infiltration in the soil of this water, and as a result we get water under the ground, which is groundwater, which also flows. See over here, and it goes and meets the oceans. Okay, next, you see oceans together hold most of the water available on the planet, but this seawater is salty and unfit for consumption by most land animals, including us humans. On the other hand, the fresh water makes up a very small proportion of the planet's water resources, and it is found in glaciers, rivers, lakes and in atmosphere and also underground. Okay, we will look into the exact numbers in just a minute. So the question is, if there is so much abundance of water, why is there water crisis? Because most of the water is unfit for consumption, and we need to filter out the content of the water so that we get healthy water which is fit for drinking. Now, regarding the details of the distribution of water, you see 97.2% is the ocean water, and the rest 2.8%, which is the non-ocean component. You see majority is glacier ice water, 2.5%, of which the next component is groundwater. I just showed you the groundwater below the ground, which is 0.62%, and then the rest is these components: freshwater lakes, then saline lakes and inland seas, then soil moisture, then streaming channels, even the water vapor in the atmosphere, and also there is 0.0003% of water inside all the living beings. This is also there, living being water. This is also there. Okay, very minute amount. Okay, let us now consider the next very important topic of fresh water. So you see Rainwater is considered to be the purest form of water as it contains very less proportion of salts when compared to oceans and seas. Hence, it is called fresh water. Now, a major part of fresh water is found in the frozen state in the form of ice caps and glaciers, and around 1% of it is found in the liquid state as rivers, streams, lakes and ponds. Surface water may also penetrate through porous rocks and gets collected beneath the earth's surface, and this is what we know as groundwater. Okay, fine. So I have given you the definition. So fresh water, river water, groundwater. Okay. Now, what about the drinking water? So as I already told you, 97% of Earth's water is salt water, unable to drink. Only 3% is fresh water. Okay. And of this, 2% is frozen and unavailable. So we have to live with only this 1%, which is for our use, of which 1/3 is groundwater. Okay. Remember this number, students. This will be important for your exams. Okay. So now, what do you see here? In this map, world map, you see the 5 most important oceans: Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Arctic Ocean and Southern Ocean, along with the various continents. Okay, Eurasia, Africa, North America, South America, Australia, even Antarctica. Okay, this is important. This might come in the examination as map work. Okay, now although we have listed 5 oceans over here, it is clear from the map that they are not really separate. See, they are interconnected in some places. See over here, there is interconnection. See, here, 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 here and here. Okay, here, 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 they are interconnected. Now, the lines that divide them on the map are no more than conventions. The natural world does not follow such boundaries. Now, seawater, for example, constantly flows across different oceans, sustaining a rich diversity of marine life. We will talk about it in just a few minutes. Now, marine life. Okay. Now, many plant and animal species can be found across multiple oceans. Marine life means life in the ocean, seas. Okay. Now, the marine flora. What is flora? Flora is the plant life of a particular region or period of time. This includes tiny plants called algae and all kinds of seaweeds. The marine fauna. What is fauna? Fauna is the animal life of a particular region or period of time. So we have flora and fauna, which basically marine life includes flora and fauna. Okay. Now, fauna consists of thousands of species of colorful fish, dolphins, whales and countless mysterious deep sea creatures. Now, each part of the ocean, from the sunlit surface to the dark depths, has its own diverse life form. So what I am saying is, if this is the entire depth of the ocean, then in its different depth, the life forms will be very different. Because you see, around the surface, they get the sunlight. But as you go inside, there is darkness. No sun is there. You won't get the sunlight because sunlight is absorbed in the upper layers. So here, the type of creatures, both flora and fauna, that you will find in the very much deeper area will be different than those of the surface area. Okay, so this is what is meant. Now, it is visible in the map that the Pacific Ocean is the largest of all. See over here, Pacific Ocean. It is existing on this side as well as this side as well, followed by the Atlantic. So, number 1 largest is Pacific Ocean, number 2 is Atlantic Ocean, followed by number 3, which is Indian Ocean, third largest, where the Southern Ocean is the 4th one, and the smallest one is the Arctic Ocean. Okay, students, important. Okay, now, so as I was saying about marine life, see over here, what do you see? Different type of fish you see, plants. Okay, see different type of fish, plants. Okay, many varieties are there, even very wide varieties. So marine life or sea life or ocean life is the plant, animal and other organisms that live in the salt water. Remember, they don't live in the fresh water, but in the salt water of seas or oceans, or the blackish waters of coastal estuaries. Now at the fundamental level, it is important to know that marine life affects the nature of the planet itself. Remember the saying that we started, the quote we started from Jules Verne, the ocean was thrilling with life, as if the ocean is alive, and this alive is caused by this flora and fauna. Now, marine organisms, mostly microorganisms, produce oxygen and sequester carbon. This is the importance part, students. Now, marine life in part shape and protect shorelines. This is also important. And some marine organisms even help create new land. Example, coral building reefs. Fine. Now, in your textbook, you will see the coral reef. This is from the textbook. So, this is the coral reef. Unfortunately, due to pollution, now they are slowly eroding away. Here you can see a starfish on a sea anemone. Again you can see a shark over here, and here you can see sperm whale, both mother and baby as well. Here what do you see? You will see dolphins. Here you will see again shallow coral reef with colorful tropical fish. Different varieties, right? Here you see the algae. They are very important for life sustaining. Next we see the penguins and also the sea turtle. Okay, now till now we have learnt about very good things about oceans. However, you must also understand that oceans sometimes bring disasters for mankind as well. Say for example, the very first photograph which we saw, see this photograph, here the white ones are clouds. Okay, remember we talked about. Now these white shapes that we saw were just clouds. Okay, now these large masses of clouds, they bring rain to the continents. For instance, the monsoon rain that we get in India every summer originate in the ocean. Without such rains, so this is how we get the monsoon rains. This is how. Okay, so it basically originate from the ocean, right? Now, without such rains, our agriculture and all life will suffer. But remember, oceans also sometimes give rise to storms, violent events with extreme rainfall or very strong winds, such as cyclones, which can cause widespread damage to coastal regions of the world. See over here. So this is the photo of the Amphan cyclone peaking near the Bay of Bengal. So this is the India, okay, and Amphan cyclone hit us very hard. It was a super cyclone, and this is how it looks like. The clouds, you see, super cyclone, how it looks like from the satellite. Okay, you see, this is yet another image. This is the India. You see the yellow part. This is the India. Okay, and the Amphan cyclone is slowly coming from the ocean towards our mainland. Okay, so this is the satellite animation of Amphan cyclone. Okay, you can see this is the video of 17th May 2020. Okay, now let's come back to our topic textbook. So similar to the super cyclone which we just talked about, super cyclone, Amphan, we have tsunami, which is yet another natural disaster that originates in the ocean. It is a very huge and powerful wave which is generally caused by a strong earthquake or a volcanic eruption which happens at the bottom of the ocean. Remember. Okay. Just a second, students. Yes. Now, tsunamis can travel thousands of kilometers and submerge coastal areas, causing widespread damage. You will learn more about it in higher classes. Okay. Fine. Now, let's learn some very important facts regarding the disasters. Okay, you see, on 26 December 2004, India and another 13 countries around the Indian Ocean were struck by a powerful tsunami caused by an earthquake in Indonesia. Now, more than 2 lakh people lost their lives. Can you imagine how disastrous? It was a great natural disaster. In India, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands and also the further islands along the coast of Tamil Nadu and Kerala were severely affected. Okay, see, where is the, yeah, this is, you see, Andaman Nicobar Islands. So this region, it was severely affected. Another thing, okay, now such tsunamis are rare, but when they happen, they are very destructive. Luckily, they can often be detected before they hit a coast, and many countries collaborate in such an early warning system. There is in particular an Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning System to which many countries, including India, contribute. This helps to take measures to protect lives and property. So the basic idea is, suppose we know that there has been a volcanic eruption somewhere, and as a result a tsunami will be very soon hitting the mainland, and it might take around 4 hours to hit the mainland. Okay, now if we know this, then the nearby coast, we can ask the government, local government, to evacuate the people. So suppose around 2 to 3 kilometer of area along the coastline, it will be evacuated, and as a result, when the tsunami hits, of course there will be lot of damage, but not human life damage. There will be property damage and other damage as well, but lives will be saved because of evacuation, proper evacuation before the tsunami hits. Okay, so that's the basic idea. Now, events that lead to loss of life and property are handled under disaster management. So students, today you have little bit learned about disaster management as well. India has its own National Disaster Management Authority to deal with all kinds of disasters. This we will learn about in the next chapters as well. Okay, now just a second. Okay, now so we have learnt about oceans. Now let us talk about continents. Fine. Yes. Now continents are visible on the map of oceans. Remember this one we talked about previously. See, the North America, South America, Africa, Eurasia, Australia, these are the continents, Antarctica. Okay, now, so overall you can count over here 6 continents also. Now they are generally, the North and South America are generally considered to be 2 continents, but if seen as a single landmass, they can also be considered as a single continent. Okay. Similarly, Europe and Asia are generally considered here actually here is Europe and this is Asia, so together they can be considered as Eurasia. Similarly, you see Africa and Eurasia are generally regarded as two continents, but sometimes they can also be considered as one. So if we count in the continents, we can consider that there are 4 continents. If we consider if we consider Africa, Eurasia, then America. What is America? America is this continent, entire America. Okay, and this is Africa, Eurasia. Next we have this Antarctica continent, and then Australia. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Or we can consider 5 continents where we separate down Africa and then America, Eurasia, Australia and Antarctica. Next we can consider 6 continents if we break this part. Okay, and then we can even consider 7 continents. How? See Eurasia. So if we consider both Asia over here and Europe over here, then we will have total 7 continents. So remember this also, students. This is important for your examination, these distributions, and also their locations on the map. They might come in your examination. Now very important concept over here, you see, regarding Olympics. You might have seen the Olympic rings, one of the symbols of the Olympic Games. See over here, right? Now, they symbolize the gathering of sports, people from all over the world. The rings were chosen to represent 5 inhabited continents: Africa, America, Asia, Australia and Europe. Okay, students. So today you have learned about the relation of this symbol of Olympics with that of our continents. Interesting, isn't it? Yes. So these concepts are interrelated. Okay. Now you see, continents do not include all the landmass. So what I mean to say is that landmass has 2 parts. One is continent and another is islands. Okay. And there are actually many islands on our planet. Say for example, some very important facts. Greenland is the largest island of the world. Okay. And next, India has more than 1300 small islands. Can you imagine? Indeed, those include 2 major groups: Andaman and Nicobar Islands in the Bay of Bengal and Lakshadweep Islands in the Arabian Sea. Next, you see, since 1981, the Indian Antarctica program has been exploring Antarctica, a continent with a very cold climate and harsh environment. In 1983, India established its first scientific base station there called Dakshin Gangotri. 2 more bases were established later on. About 40 teams of Indian scientists have conducted research in this faraway region, especially on the evolution of climate and environment. The settlement where the scientists live has a library and even a post office. Okay, now let us consider the last part of our class, which is oceans and life. You see, oceans and continents are vital parts of the environment and affect most aspects of our lives, even if we do not notice it. Now, we have mentioned that oceans send rain to the continents, and this is part of the Earth's water cycle, which I have already shown you, but you will also further learn this in science. I will also tell you about this when I cover the science chapter. Now, without oceans, there would be no rainfall, and then the earth would be a desert. Understand? So, no ocean means desert. Okay, Now, moreover, more than half of the world's oxygen is produced by the ocean's floor. So, number one important point, no ocean means no rainfall and earth will become a desert. Number two, importance of ocean. See, more than, number 2 point, more than half of the world's oxygen is produced by the ocean's flora, which is why they are called the planet's lungs. So you see, the oceans play a very crucial role in regulating the climate and sustaining life on earth. Okay. Next, oceans have deeply impacted humanity in many other ways. From early times, you see, people have used oceans and seas to migrate from one region to other, to trade in all kinds of goods. So, transportation, migration as a route, and transportation of goods, to conduct military campaigns, and as a source of food through fishing. Number 4, source of food through fishing. Right, another very important point. This source also source of very important medicines. We also get, after fishing many marine fauna, we prepare medicines from them which are very helpful to humans. So you see, oceans have also nourished the cultures of coastal people all over the world. Almost all of them have tales and legends about the sea, sea gods and goddesses, sea monsters and treasures from the sea, the ocean dangers, but also their blessings. Okay, now this is important, students. 8th June is often celebrated as World's Ocean Day. Why? So, to remind us of the major role played by the ocean in all of our lives. It serves as lungs of our planet, a major source of food and medicine, and a critical part of the biosphere. Scientific studies, you see, have shown how the oceans are polluted by human activity. Now, very sadly, we sometimes find plastics at the ocean's floor. We throw, you see, several million tons of plastic waste in the ocean every year, choking many animals. And there are several other forms of pollution. As a result, the marine environment is under threat. Overfishing, which is excessive fishing in a way, is yet another cause for the decline of marine life. So, one is pollution, another is overfishing. We are doing so much harm to the marine life. Now, it is our collective responsibility to protect oceans for the future of the planet and of all humanity. So, very briefly, why is ocean and sea important for us? It produces, you see, 70% of the oxygen and absorbs 1/4 of the carbon dioxide produced. You see, the sea gives life to many marine creatures with incredible biodiversity. Next, it mitigates the climate and absorbs heat, helping to maintain the atmospheric pressure. It beats all records because it hosts from the smallest to largest animals. It also gives us work and food to eat. Now finally, before I end, let me briefly talk about the marine challenges. We have talked about some of them. You see, 30% mangroves and seagrasses are lost over here. This is a very important, sad story. And you see, 90% decline in large predatory fish stocks as a result of overfishing. You see, 100 million sharks are targeted by humans annually. Can you imagine? Another thing, 19% of coral reefs lost, and because of our pollution. You can find this information more in the unitedwildlife.org. Again, 100,000 whales and dolphins are killed every year. Now, ocean acidification is yet another issue because of carbon emissions. Again, rising sea level, which is the global temperature rise, is yet another very dangerous thing that we are slowly paying, and we will pay more in the near future. Next, 8 to 12 million tons of plastic enter ocean annually. Can you imagine what will happen after hundreds of years in the next decade? Next, mass coral bleaching event is observed, and 93% Great Barrier Reef is bleached due to increased oceanic temperature. So I have mentioned here some of the very important marine challenges. Okay, students.